Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastik, and I am back with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited set review. This set will focus only on limited in the context of draft and sealed. If constructed, or even commander comes up, I might mention it, but for the most part, I'm going to be grading these cards based on their playability in draft and sealed. I'll be grading them on a 1 through 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being absolute bomb, pick it up immediately. So if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. If you want to see the other colors I've already gone over, black, blue, and white, you can catch them on Facebook and YouTube, Mr. Clintastik. So yeah, let's jump right in to the red spells. First, we have Academic Dispute, a 1-drop red spell. Instant. Target creature blocks this turn if able. You may have it gain reach until end of turn. Learn. Okay, this is an uncommon spell, and I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. You can force a creature to block to get it off the board, which is interesting. You can also give your creature reach if you want to block it when they're attacking in. And either way, you can learn. So I'm going to give this a 3.5. I'm not sure how red mages are going to use this card. But it will be just average with just the, target creature blocks this turn if able. You may have it gain reach until end of turn. It doesn't force you to choose your opponent's creatures or anything. So I think that makes it really, playable. I think the learn ability on top of it just puts it above average at a 3.5 range. I just don't know if it's going to go above that. It's going to really depend on the format. Next we have Ardent Dust Speaker, a 5-drop for generic and a red creature Minotaur Shaman. Whenever it attacks, you may put an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Okay. So we have a 4-drop in black that could tap and put instants and sorceries in the yard. That was a 4-drop in black. And this is a 5-drop in red. When it attacks, you may put an instant or sorcery card from graveyard on the bottom of your library. So we're starting to see a little bit of synergy there, I guess. But it's so dang expensive. I'm going to give this a 2.5. I don't know if this is even average. But if there's some instant sorcery graveyard shenanigans going on, then this might go up higher. But other than that, it's just a 5-drop 3/4. I mean, it potentially gives you value late game. I'm going to give it a 2.75. And I just got to see how it play out. I just don't think it's a card that I'm going to want to see too often at 5 mana. Next we have Blood Age General. 2-drop, 1 generic, and a red Spirit Warrior. Tap. Attacking spirits get 1/0 until end of turn. It's 2/2. Okay. Serviceable. Especially if you compose the spirit deck. I'm going to give it a 3 though. I'm going to give it a 3.25. Because it can pump the whole squad. I really hate that it's tap itself. Maybe there's a way to give all your spirits vigilant. That would be cool. You give all your spirits vigilant, swing in, tap. It gets a pump too. But right now I think this is slightly above average. 2-drop, 2/2. Totally serviceable. And its ability puts it a little above the curve. So I'm going to give it a 3.25 for now. I'm sure I'll see it in some... I'm sure everyone's going to see it in some decks in limited. Next we have Conspiracy Theorists. 2-drop, 1 generic and a red human shaman. Whenever this card attacks, you may pay 1 and discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Okay? Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile 1 of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. I saw another content creator discuss this card, talking about it's a slam dunk for them. It's definitely, serviceable. 2-drop, 2/2. You gotta wait for it to attack. Then you have to discard a card. You get to draw a card. Then you get to play that card. Say it's cheap, you get to play it. So you need like a 2-drop you can discard the next turn. Why do I feel like I'm having to jump through so many hoops for a card? I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's definitely above the curve. And it could be a 3.75. This could start netting you value across the course of an entire game. I'm going to give it a 3.75. I can see red mages wanting to play Conspiracy Theorists. And I can see opponents really wanting to get rid of this card. It's just, if your opponents have ways to block this, you just lose value on it though. So maybe it should stay at a 3.5. Yeah, it's going to stay at 3.5. You'll need ways to pump it or make sure to keep your opponent's creatures off the board. Next we have Crackle with Power. It's a 5-drop. Well, 2 red, XXX. Sorcery. Crackle with Power deals 5 times X damage to up to X targets. So you have 5 mana, and then you can deal 5 damage to 1 target. You have 8 mana, you deal 5 damage to 2 targets. You have 11 mana, you deal 5 damage to 3 targets. Say you have 14 mana, you're dealing 5 damage. Is that 5 targets? No, to 4 targets, you're winning. Because you could just deal 5 damage 4 times to your opponent. This is I'm gonna call this a 5, even in limited. Maybe you compose some kind of ramp deck. I don't know. How you win the game is on you. But having Crackle of Power gives you a way. I mean, it's only 2 red to fire off. My goodness. This is pretty dang ridiculous. You can deal, you need a lot of mana, so it's a late game card, But I would definitely be happy with 2 of them, and I would have to just play the card. I definitely think it's a 5. It can close out games. It can deal with big threats. It can deal with multiple threats. Crackle with Power is a bomb. Next we have Draconic Intervention, a 4-drop 2 generic 2 red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Draconic Intervention deals X damage to each non-dragon creature where X is the exile card's mana value. If a creature dealt damage this way will die this turn, exile it instead. Exile Draconic Intervention. Okay. I'm going to give this a 5. Red is looking like it has a lot of damage going on. You play this for 4. You exile your 3-drop, instant or sorcery from the yard. You're dealing 3 to all creatures. Or you play this for 4. You deal 4 to all creatures, exiling your 4-drop instant. And the longer the game goes on, say you have bigger instants and sorceries, this could gain you more and more value. I'm giving it a 5. I think it's just a great way to have another board wipe, and I think it would pair well with white. Right now, I think everything pairs well with white. White looks really powerful having those aggressive Magecraft creatures. You're probably going to need something like Draconic Intervention to deal with them. Next, we have Dragon's Approach. 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red sorcery. Dragon's Approach deals 3 damage to each opponent. You may exile Dragon's Approach and 4 cards named Dragon's Approach from your graveyard. If you do, search your library for a dragon creature card, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. A deck can have any number of cards named Dragon's Approach. So it's a common red card. I have to give this a 2.5 for now. I think it's playable. I don't think it's totally unplayable. And I would like it to be cool, you know, because say you do compose like 4 or 5 of these. Well, you have to have... Gee. Actually, you know what? In Limited, this is unplayable. By the time you have 4 other cards named Dragon's Approach, that's 12 damage. That's 4 whole turns. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I'm rating it really low. I just don't know. It could trigger Magecraft, but it doesn't deal with any threats from your opponent. You'll have to get really lucky that day to get the amount of Dragon's Approaches you need to really do anything. I'm going to give it a 1.5 for now. It could just totally be unplayable, but it's slightly... It's there. I think it has a little something there. A little bit of potential. Next we have Efreet, Flame Painter. A 4-drop, 3 generic and a red. Creature, Efreet, Shaman. What's a Efreet? What's a Efreet? Alright, double strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell will be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. It's a 1/4. Ooh-wee! Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is up there. This is up for me, at least. I'm giving this a 4.5. I think this is really up there. First off, it has double strike, which is really, really important. And that means that this can trigger twice a turn. As long as you keep the way open for it. Combat damage once, combat damage twice. Oh my goodness. You may cast any instant or sorcery from the yard without paying the mana cost. We know how powerful that is. This is a 4.75 for me. I think this is pretty dang ridiculous. First pickable even. It's not the board wipes we've been seeing. And I think those are just magnificent. And Liliana. But this is really high up there. Efreet Flame Painter. Let's go. Enthusiastic Study. 3-drop, 2 generic and a red. Instant. Target creature gets 3+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Learn. So, what decks are y'all putting together? Red, white, or red, black? Because that's where the party's at. You pair this with your Magecraft creatures, put a few of the lessons in the sideboard to give you some extra value. My goodness, this card is great. This gets a 3.5 for me. It would just be average in my opinion if it was, you know, just 3/1 and trample for 3. Because we've seen Run Amok, which gives 3/3, and trample for 2. But Run Amok had a condition that the creature had to be attacking. The creature here does not have to be attacking. And you get to learn. I think this is really, really good. In your aggressive red decks, might even be a 3.75 for me. Next we have Explosive Welcome. An 8-drop, 7 generic and a red. Huh? Instant. Deals 5 damage to any target and 3 damage to any other target. Add 3 mana. Okay. So we got to really see what green has to offer here, because it looks like red wants you to engage with a lot of mana costs for their higher potential spells. You play this for 8, 5 damage to the opponent, 3 damage to the opponent. This, I mean, 8 damage for 8, then you net 3 red mana. I think that could be really good. I'm going to give it a... The mana cost is stressful. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I still think it's above average. And I think if you're big brain, you should be able to figure this out. Am I the one to figure it out? I don't know. There's a lesson here, but I'm not going to be the one to figure it out. From Rick. Next we have Fervent Mastery, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 red sorcery. You may pay 2 generic and 2 red rather than pay the spell's mana cost. If the 2 generic, 2 red cost was paid, an opponent discards any number of cards, then draws that many cards. Why would I do that? Search your library for up to 3 cards, put them into your hand, shuffle, then discard 3 cards at random. 0. This gets a 1. This is a 1. It's not playable. Why are they doing this? These rares are like, this is... Why? Search your library for up to 3 cards, put them in your hand, shuffle, then discard 3 cards at random. Don't play this in limited. I don't even know how this is. I doubt this sees standard, and it's rare. There's going to be a lot of mixed signals in this set, because this is going to get passed. When people see how bad this is, they're going to be like, passes. And people are going to be like, oh, red must be open. No, it's not. This is just bad. Don't get fooled. Fervent Mastery, a rare dud. God. Am I reading that wrong? No. No, that's bad. Ugh. Next we have First Dev Class. 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 red, instant. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it and it gains haste until end of turn. Learn. And this is common. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. You play this. Say you have a way to get multiple creatures on the board this turn. And you get to learn. Well, is this ridiculous? It's not like it's an enchantment that does it. Like in white, they have that 3-drop enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks, it gets a counter. This is only for 1 turn. This is really weird, right? It's not like put 1/1 counter on all your creatures. It's whenever the creature ETBs. So you have to do it first and then play your creatures. I like the 1/1 counter aspect, but I don't know. This card's weird. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Because it's not pumping your creature like doing combat damage or anything. It has learned, but it's like a one-trick pony. Next we have Fuming Effigy. 4-drop, 3 generic, and a red creature spirit. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, Fuming Effigy deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's a 4/3. Okay, that's cool artwork, right? Like a Terminator type deal going on here. Four-drop, 4/3, serviceable. I'm still going to just give it a 3. 4-drop, 4/3, totally playable. Its ability might come in handy every now and then, but I doubt it's like game breaking, like format shattering. Next we have Grinning Ignace. 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red elemental. Pay a red, return Grinning Ignace to its owner's hand. Add 3 mana, 2 generic and a red. Activate only as a sorcery. Why? That card was reading so well. That card was reading so well, and then activate only as a sorcery. That's not what I want to do. So it can net you mana, but you still gotta play it back. A 3-drop 2. This is just a 3-drop 2/2 essentially. I'm giving it a 2.5. It could be playable. Maybe someone can do something with it, but this is less than average to me. A 3-drop 2/2 with some kind of weird convoluted effects. No thank you. Next we have Hall Monitor, a 1-drop red lizard shaman with haste. Okay. Pay 1 in red, tap it, target creature can't block this turn. Okay, and it's a 1/1. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think the haste ability is really powerful. If you're pairing it with white, I think it's gonna be really strong. Maybe even black. I doubt it though. And I could be wrong on it being a 3.5. It's just a 1/1, but it can get in, you can pump it, and then not only that, you can pay mana and then make it so a certain creature can't block on another turn later in the game. I think that gives it a little more mobility. You can even, like, late game, play this, tap 2 more mana, tap it, and try to close out a game. So I think it's pretty serviceable. I wouldn't first pick it, but I mean, like I said, depending on what you're trying to do that game, you could be in good shape with that card. Next we have Heated Debate. 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red instant. This spell can't be countered. Wow, this includes by the ward ability. That's potent. That's potent. Heated Debate deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Instant 4.5. There's not much debate there. Just a well-rounded card. Instant speed, can't be countered. And it deals with ward creatures. Instant 4.5. Next we have Igneous Inspiration, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red. Igneous Inspiration deals 3 damage to any target. It's a sorcery. Yeah. Igneous Inspiration deals 3 damage to any target, and you get to learn. I think this is a 3.5 as well. Maybe even a 4 because it has learn attached to it. Wish it was instant speed, but it deals damage to any target, and you get to learn. Definite 3.5 for me. Maybe even a 4 depending on the format. I think that's going to really make some changes there. Next we have Illuminate History, a 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 red, sorcery lesson. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. Then if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Okay. Okay. This is a great card to look up, to learn, and find late in the game. You can hold your lands, discard them, and then not only are you getting value off the draw, you're making a creature. I'm definitely giving this a 4. Especially just being in the sideboard, chilling, waiting for you to come get it. I like it. I like it a lot. You learn, go get this, you discard cards, draw that many cards, and then potentially make a 3/2 red and white spirit token. I can't complain. Next we have Illustrious Historian. It is a 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 red human shaman. Pay 5, exile Illustrious Historian from your graveyard. Create a tapped 3/2 red and white creature token. 2-drop, 2/1. Okay. 3.5. Simply because it's a... it's not even really a bear, right? Because it's 1 toughness. But it's still serviceable. And the fact that you can, later in the game, and it looks like instant speed, you can exile Historian from your yard, create a tap 3/2. I think this is a 3.5 all day. Easy to play early, trades, and then gives you value later. thank you. Next we have Mascot Interception. 4 drop, 3 generic, and a red sorcery. This spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a creature token. I noticed that a little bit, that they're saying certain things about tokens. I think it was an artifact or some kind of attachment that it was like 3 to attach to a creature, but 1 to attach to a creature token. I think that's really interesting. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gets 2/0 and gains haste until end of turn. So I was talking about earlier, are we going to have any spells to take creatures to sack off the creatures? So this is something you're going to be wanting to look out for if that's what you're trying to do. But this spell is uncommon, so you might not get it as much, and we haven't really seen too many other game control spells other than in blue we saw one, but that was for good. These kind of spells you kind of want to for the turn, so they're going to be going back to the opponent, get some kind of value, and then you sack it off. I'm going to give it a 3 for now, and if the sacrifice deck is able to be composed, it might go to a 3.5, but it's just going to get a 3 for now. I think it is interesting that it can take a creature token for 1 mana. That's what really will put it in a 3.5 category. Next we have Pigment Storm, a 5 drop, 3 generic, and 2 red sorcery. Pigment Storm deals 5 damage to target creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. 5 mana, deal 5 damage to a creature. I'm going to give this card a 2. We've seen just too many other value spells. I mean, that might be disrespectful. It might be just a 3, just a serviceable red spell. You might put it at the top of your curve or whatnot. I'm going to give it a 3. Deals 5 damage to target creature, excess damage dealt to the creature's controller. So, I mean, that's another thing. They could have a 1/1 token out. They're at 4 life. Boom. That's almost like trample damage. I'm with it. I'll give it a 3. Next we have Pillar Drop Warden, a 4 drop, 3 generic, and a red spirit dwarf with reach. Tap it, pay 2, sacrifice it, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Activate only as a sorcery. It's a 1/5. A 4 drop, 1/5 with reach. I'm not personally feeling it. And if spirits are trying to be aggressive, this definitely isn't aggressive. I'm going to give it a 2.5. 4 drop, 1/5 with reach is just meh, in my opinion. Getting the instant of sorcery from your graveyard back to your hand at sorcery speed is also meh. But if you have some really good ones, you know, you might want to, you know, throw this in your build to get it back. Next we have Retriever Phoenix, a 4 drop, 3 generic, and a red phoenix, flying haste. Whenever Retriever Phoenix ETBs, if you cast it, learn. As long as Retriever Phoenix is in your graveyard, if you would learn, you may instead return Retriever Phoenix to the battlefield. Definitely 5. Definite first pickable card here. Flying haste 2/2. Yes. When it ETBs, you learn. Yes. And when it's in the yard, if you would learn, or you bring it back. Yes. 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 I love this. If you see it, grab it, pump it, have your shenanigans with it, have your way with Retriever Phoenix. Slam dunk of a spell, in my opinion. Next we have Start from Scratch, a 3 drop, 2 generic, and a red sorcery lesson. Choose 1. Start from Scratch deals 1 damage to any target. 3 destroy target artifact. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. Maybe this is just off in your sideboard. And see, this would definitely be a 1 if it wasn't a lesson. 3 mana to deal 1 damage to any target or destroy an artifact is just boo-boo. Just absolute boo-boo. But the fact that it's a lesson, you can have it off in your sideboard. You can go get it, bring it into the game, win a game if they, have 1 point of damage, kill a significant creature or whatnot, destroy an artifact. So I'm gonna give it a 1.5. Could even go up to a 2, but otherwise this card would not be in my radar at all. Next we have Storm Kiln Artist. 4-drop, 3 generic and a red. Dwarf Shaman. Storm Kiln Artist. That's a hard phrase to say. Storm Kiln Artist gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. It has Magecraft. Is this the first red card we've seen with Magecraft? Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. I'm giving this card a 4. And it's something I really want to give a higher value to. But this is incredible. You play this, it's a 4-drop 2/2, meh. But as you play your instants and sorceries, you make treasures, and that's just so freaking powerful. This can help you ramp into those red spells, like that mythic red where you need 14 mana to just close out a game, deal 20 damage to your opponent or something. Like, this is what helps you get there. So I'm gonna give it a 4. It could easily go up to a 4.5 for me. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 4.25 because it could easily bump up at any time. I really like this artist, and I think it's really gonna paint a pretty picture for some red players this season. Here we have Sudden Breakthrough. 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 red instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike till end of turn. That's amazing. You also create a treasure token. Wow! They're giving red, white, and red, black aggro the sauce, the juice, the gas, the gusto. Like, my goodness. This is definitely a 3.5. I'll run 2 or 3 of these in my aggro deck. Especially just netting the treasure off of it, giving it 2/0 and first strike is ridiculous. By the end of it, your opponent's not going to have any creatures on the board to even block your creatures with, and you're just going to finish out the game. Yikes. That's crazy. I'm going to actually get at a 3.75. Next, we have Tome Shredder. 3-drop, 2 generic and a red. Wolf. Haste. Okay. You can tap it, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on Tome Shredder. It's a 2/2. I'm going to give this a 3.25. I was going to give it a 3.5, but it is just a 3-drop 2/2. It does have haste, which is cool, but you really have to eat the instants and sorceries in your yard once per turn to get any value off attacking with this. So it could be higher up, but its ability is not what I want. I would rather that just say pay 1 instead of tap it. You'll have to give your creature vigilance to really get some value off this, and I'm not sure how we'll do that just yet. Well, with that white enchantment, you attack with it, right? Put a 1/1 counter on it, right? Then it untaps from the enchantment, right? Then you tap it, exile instant or sorcery. All right. We're seeing it. And next we have Twin Scroll Shaman. 3-drop, 2 generic and a red, 1/2 with double strike. No Magecraft? Really? No learn? Why? So we got to give it a 2.5. It has double strike, but you really got to work this card to make it work for you. So yeah, overall, I felt red had some bangers like Retriever Phoenix, Sudden Breakthrough, even Pigment Storm a little bit. They had 1 gain control spell, unfortunately, and it's uncommon. Illuminate History is pretty interesting. Do not play Fervent Mastery. I think that was the worst card in the whole whole little set here. Jeez Louise. And the mythic Crackle with power. Just imagine, just boom, I'm gonna deal 10 damage to you with one spell. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. And I think it's gonna pair. I think it'll pair better with white than with black. But I'm gonna have to see when I start doing like my archetype guide. And yeah, so if you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe.